"You black man? Take your hands off her and step back immediately." Turning around, I saw red and blue lights flashing like a gash in the darkness, slicing the parking lot into two stark halves, one blazing with authority, the other shrouded in fear. A tall black man, calm, raised both hands slowly, each movement calculated to the centimeter. He stood there, not a word of protest, not a step forward, as if proving that silence was his only path to survival. Then the woman, blonde, dress smeared with dirt, rushed to cling to the police officer's arm, sobbing hysterically, as if she'd stepped out of a cheap melodrama. "Attacked me, knocked my husband out cold. He smashed our car. He's crazy," she wailed, performing for an unseen audience. I saw her lose her temper first. She was the one who slapped him. Then her husband showed up, charging in without knowing the story. The black man? He only defended himself, didn't fight back, just protected himself. Now he stood there, eyes unblinking, as if saying, "I didn't do anything wrong. Check the cameras. Ask the people recording. The truth is still there." One seemingly ordinary afternoon in the mall parking lot, the sun still golden, the breeze still gentle, and busy people bustling about. But for Malik Carter, it was the day everything changed. Malik wasn't an ordinary man. A former Navy SEAL, he had fought on battlefields, surviving storms of bullets and bombs. Yet in this peaceful world, what he faced was a prejudice crueler than war. He had just parked his car, engine still running, when a sleek white SUV screeched to a halt behind him. Out stepped a blonde woman, her face meticulously made up, her eyes brimming with contempt. Karen Wallace, confident, arrogant, accustomed to always getting her way. She couldn't accept that someone like him dared to take the parking spot she believed was hers. Karen didn't care that Malik had parked legally or that he hadn't even noticed her approaching. All she saw was a black man who had stolen what she wanted, and so the spark ignited. No argument was needed. Just a single scornful glance was enough to set the sky ablaze. "That spot was mine. People like you always take everything and then play the victim," her voice rang out, sharp and bitter, like a knife slicing through Malik's patience. But Malik Carter was not easily shaken. He had seen too much true evil out there to be felled by a woman drunk on privilege. He stayed silent, but his eyes said everything. And Karen? She had just stepped into a battle she didn't understand, and one she could never win. "I didn't see your name on that parking spot," Malik said, his voice low and calm, almost chilling. Karen stood there, hands on hips, eyes blazing, a woman used to society's indulgence now facing her worst nightmare. Being denied. "I was backing in. Didn't you see?" she snapped. "No signal, no warning." "No law says it's yours," Malik replied, pulling out his keys, his tone steady as ever. For a former SEAL who'd coordinated nighttime raids and made split-second life-or-death calls, this petty dispute was nothing. But for Karen, it was a direct hit to her inflated ego, and she unraveled. "Who do you think you are?" Karen screamed, stepping so close to Malik they were barely an arm's length apart. Malik didn't flinch. He'd stood encircled by enemies, heard gunfire inches from his ears. Her entitled shrieks were nothing. But Karen didn't just want to win an argument, she wanted to dominate. "You people think wearing a uniform makes you noble, a hero? You're just a pawn in camouflage." The crowd around them began to pause, everything slowing like a scene in a movie. Then it happened. No warning. No hesitation, Karen raised her hand and slapped Malik hard across the face. The sound echoed through the parking lot. The crowd fell silent. Malik stood rooted, head tilted slightly from the impact, but his eyes, calm, chillingly composed, never wavered. Karen smirked triumphantly. "Yeah, stay quiet, go on, react. I'd love to see what you heroes are capable of." Malik met her gaze and said slowly, "You just destroyed your own dignity." At that moment, from a distance, a door slammed open, and a man's voice boomed, "What's going on, babe?" Doug Wallace, Karen's husband, tall, aggressive, but reckless, strode forward. Malik didn't turn. He only murmured, just loud enough for himself, "And now." The real show begins. "You touch my wife?" Doug roared like a beast, rolling up his sleeves and charging straight at Malik. Malik turned, standing tall, not stepping back, not reacting. Their eyes locked, one a blind, hulking rage, the other a disciplined soldier, calm, seasoned, and ready. Doug lunged, throwing a wide, powerful punch, but sloppy. Malik tilted his head slightly, and the fist missed. Doug stumbled. The crowd gasped, phone cameras flashing to life. No one intervened. They all knew the black man was being falsely accused. Doug roared again, swinging a second punch. A grave mistake. Malik didn't dodge this time. He stepped in. A single, precise strike to Doug's ribs, clean and sharp, cracked the silence. Doug crumpled, collapsing to his knees, clutching his chest, eyes wide with shock. He went down as cleanly as the myth of white privilege was knocked out of him. Karen screamed, unhinged. "He attacked my husband. He's dangerous, call the police." Malik stood there, not breathless, not trembling, not smug. He spoke loud enough for the whole lot to hear. "I didn't hurt him, I just stopped him," before he humiliated himself further. Then the wail of sirens cut through the air. The police had arrived. "You black man, take your hands off her and step back immediately." The shout rang out from the arriving police, their red and blue lights flashing, splitting the parking lot in two. One side reason, the other prejudice. Malik raised both hands, neither rushed nor sluggish. He knew one wrong move could end with a gunshot. Karen bolted toward the officers, tears streaming, shoulders trembling as if she'd just escaped a kidnapper. "Attacked me, then knocked my husband out cold. He smashed our car. He's crazy," she wailed, clinging to an officer's arm like a bad high school actress. Malik kept his hands raised, eyes steady. "I didn't touch her until she slapped me. Then her husband charged. If you check the cameras or ask anyone recording, you'll see who attacked first." But the officers' gazes stayed fixed on Malik. In a parking lot with a sobbing white woman and a silent black man, people still trusted tears over truth. Malik knew this, and he accepted it. What Karen didn't know was that everything was being recorded. A store manager stepped forward, phone raised high. "I've got video, and the security cameras caught it all." The air shifted. The familiar crutch Karen leaned on, feigned fragility, began to crack. Yet she kept performing. "He's a monster. He'd have killed me if you hadn't come." Malik lowered his hands slowly, locking eyes with her. His voice was low but clear. "You've played this game your whole life, but this time the stage isn't yours anymore." "Run, dog, run!" Karen screamed, yanking her husband to his feet as the store manager handed the video to the police. Doug staggered up, still dazed from Malik's punch, but when he saw the officer's eyes widen watching the footage, the slap, the punch, the smashed car window, he knew the game was over. Yet he tried anyway. Doug grabbed a rock from the curb. Crack! It shattered Malik's windshield, breaking like his own ego. His final mistake. Malik didn't chase. He just stood there watching. No shouting, no pursuit. He knew the cameras were rolling and justice was locked and loaded. Karen and Doug scrambled into their SUV, speeding off. The police called for backup. Bystanders shouted, some live streaming, others pointing. Minutes later, Malik left the parking lot, glass shattered, car scratched, but his heart steady. The truth was tailing the fleeing couple. Police swarmed. Doug lost control, crashing into a pole. The SUV crumpled. Karen wailed, faking a faint. Doug crawled out only to be cuffed. Malik arrived at the scene moments later, stepping slowly, his gaze free of anger, calm as if he'd just wiped a stain from his mind. This time, before the cameras and the nation's eyes, the victor didn't need to shout. He just stood still. In court, Karen Wallace, once a successful realtor, used to giving orders and being pampered, stood silent, her dazed eyes and neat bun failing to hide her panic. The judge's voice was firm. Defendant Karen Wallace is sentenced to 6 months in prison, 2 years probation, mandatory racial bias training, and restitution for damages. Doug Wallace, her husband, head bowed, jaw still swollen, eyes vacant, heard his fate. Doug Wallace is sentenced to 12 months in prison for vandalism, resisting arrest, and reckless endangerment. Malik Carter said nothing. He sat upright, hands clasped, his calm the mark of a man who didn't need to yell for justice. After the verdict, the video spread like wildfire across social media. Karen and Doug's names flooded platforms, from Facebook to Twitter to evening news. Everyone knew what happened in that parking lot. Woman loses career over a parking spot tantrum. Husband thought he was a hero, humbled in 3 seconds. No one pitied them. No one made excuses. They dug their own graves. Karen was fired from her real estate firm that day. Doug's construction contracts were canceled. His name blacklisted in the industry. Their kids dropped out of school, too ashamed to face the taunts and cameras. Neighbors avoided them, some venting by egging their house at night. The privilege they'd taken for granted became a burden. The normal they'd known was now an indelible stain on their honor and records. And Malik? He didn't go on TV or live stream his story. He stood quietly amid the online cheers, knowing his silence was the loudest victory of all. Malik Carter walked out of the courtroom not with a triumphant smile, but with steady, composed steps. He didn't need cheers, applause, or anyone taking his side. The truth was loud enough to speak for itself. The verdict was delivered and social media erupted. The reputations of his attackers, Karen and Doug Wallace, were mercilessly crushed, not because Malik sought revenge or struck back, but because they destroyed themselves. The following week, Malik visited a car dealership. A sleek new vehicle gleamed in the showroom, replacing the old one with its rock-shattered windshield. As the salesman handed him the keys, Malik said softly, "This I didn't just buy with money. I bought it with patience and with a lesson for the world. Not everyone who's silent is weak." Driving home, Malik paused on a quiet street. In the distance stood the familiar house, Karen and Doug's. Fallen leaves blanketed the yard, the porch peeling, the once pristine home now resembling an abandoned shell. From within, relentless arguing spilled out. Blame, shouting, crashing. Malik didn't need to go closer. He watched for a moment, then drove on. They were still there, trapped in the mess they'd made. But Malik? He'd moved far beyond. Victory wasn't in throwing the first punch, but in being the last one standing, unshaken, true to himself. Malik Carter didn't need to be a hero. He just needed to be a man who understood the power of silence, patience, and truth.